A St. Augustine surrogate mother is fighting for full custody of the children she gave birth to after she says the intended parent never picked them up.
So the babies were born in November 2024 at UF Health Jacksonville, but 20 months later, they still have not been united with their intended parent. And this comes as a new Florida law went into effect this month, restricting who can enter into surrogacy contracts.
Investigative reporter Riley Phillips joins us now in the studio after sitting down with that surrogate mom. And Riley, the intended parent is a man from China.
Yes, Kyla Simpson entered a surrogacy contract with that man. They went through an agency in California and she became pregnant with triplets. But things started to break down after Simpson gave birth, and now she wants parental rights of the children she says she has raised. I do want to note, though, I sat down with Simpson a week before a judge granted an emergency pickup order for the babies, removing them from Simpson and placing them in temporary foster care. They're currently in protective custody in an unknown location while this case goes through the court system.
Making up games is more important.
Meet Samuel and Daniel, 20-month-old boys born to surrogate Kyla Simpson.
I made up my mind that I wanted to bless someone with a child that, wasn't able to.
Simpson went through the necessary medical evaluations and worked with an agency in California to become a surrogate. She was approved and matched with an intended parent, a single man from China. Through IVF, she became pregnant with triplets. From the start, both Simpson and the intended parent had legal representation. They both signed a gestational surrogacy contract detailing the pregnancy process and how much Simpson would be compensated along the way. They also signed a hospital birth plan.
And that was dated October 31st, 2024. It basically stated that I have physical custody of them and that I'm able to make, decisions on behalf of them, in lieu of his absence.
Simpson gave birth about a month before her due date on November 4th, 2024. She tells me the boys stayed in the NICU for about 2 months while they grew stronger. She says the intended parent told her he was in the process of getting a visa to visit the U.S. and pick up his children. According to their gestational surrogacy hospital plan, Simpson was given physical custody until he arrived at the hospital, but he never arrived before the babies were allowed to go home.
Every day I came to that hospital, and if it was a day where I'm just super exhausted and I couldn't make it, I'm up there, I'm calling all throughout the day.
Simpson and her husband Lincoln brought the boys home by January of 2025. She continued to breastfeed them and take them to doctor's appointments. She also continued to communicate with the intended parent. Emails show the intended parent told her he was working on obtaining a visa and asked her for help getting the boys' travel documents. Simpson says at one point they even discussed her flying to China to drop off the babies.
My mom was like, I'll fly with you. And she was like, don't go by yourself. And I was willing to. So it shows that I never was trying to actually keep them.
In an email dated March 21st, 2025, the intended parent tells Simpson that he will be asking his friends and an agent to pick up the babies. Simpson says around that time, 2 men in a black SUV showed up to her home, but she did not know who they were.
I don't feel comfortable doing all of these things and you're not coming to get them. I said either you, the people you had listed that could, if in case you passed away or something, they would have custody of these kids, them, or a representative from the agency to come and get these kids. I'm not handing them over to no stranger.
Simpson tells me communication with the intended parent broke down in the following months. Then in August of 2025, one of the triplets, baby Christopher, passed away from complications with RSV.
I broke down crying over him. They had to pull me out the room because I was crying. I'm like, Chris, say something. That was my most bubbly baby.
Simpson says she did not hear from the intended parent again until February of this year.
What, Mama?
In May, Simpson began the legal process of terminating the intended parent's parental rights to formally adopt the boys.
I say our kids because blood doesn't matter to me. How they look doesn't matter to me. Color doesn't matter. I birthed them.
The intended parent has since retained an attorney who filed an emergency motion to take the boys from Simpson's custody. A St. Johns County judge approved that order, and the boys have been in someone else's care since June 17th. Simpson's attorney has now filed an emergency motion to prevent the boys' removal from the U.S. while the case continues in court. But as the children get closer to their second birthday, this case is bringing up questions about what happens when an intended parent does not pick up their children. Karen Persis is an assisted reproductive technology attorney in Florida with no connection to this case. She says situations like these are rare.
I haven't seen it happen on either side. I've never seen a surrogate try to refuse intended parents access to their child, nor have I ever seen intended parents not show up to get their child, even during COVID.
Persis tells me typically international intended parents take care of everything from new birth certificates to passports, and they're usually in the U.S. for the arrival of their children. Under Florida law, the intended parent is supposed to initiate the court process within 3 days of birth for what is called an expedited affirmation of parental status. In Simpson's case, this was done in California, but the intended parent did not amend the original birth certificates within 30 days according to Florida law.
By statute, the intended parents are presumptively the parents. So the court process that occurs post-birth is basically making sure that all the paperwork and everything was done correctly and in order.
This comes at the same time the state of Florida has begun restricting international surrogacy. A new law went into effect July 1st, banning gestational surrogacy contracts if any party involved is a citizen or resident of a foreign country of concern. Those countries include China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Syria, and Venezuela. The new law does not stop Florida surrogates from working with agencies in other states that do not have the same restrictions, just as Simpson did. I asked the attorney for the intended parent in this case multiple times why he has not been able to visit the U.S. to pick up his children. I have not received an answer. 20 months since their birth, Simpson says Samuel and Daniel are now part of her family. She just wants her boys back home.
You had a year and a half to do all that you needed to do. But to now rip them from everything they've known.
And again, I've reached out to the intended parent's attorney multiple times, and I still have not received a response. A hearing on this case has been scheduled for July 29th in St. Johns County. But just yesterday, Simpson's attorney appealed to Florida's 5th District Court of Appeals, filing an emergency motion to keep the children in the U.S. A judge denied that motion this morning. China is not part of the Hague Abduction Convention, which is an international treaty that provides a legal way for children who were wrongfully removed from a parent to be returned to their home country. Since China has not signed that treaty, an American court order would not be able to bring the boys back to the U.S. if they have already been sent to China.